Hey, did you know that plastic is produced with oil? A fossil fuel that pollutes the environment. Wouldn't it just be awesome if we could live our lives without plastic? Well, there's a company that wants to help you do just that. Life Without Plastic. They sell products that will reduce or eliminate your dependence on plastic. They have a large selection of products like toothbrushes, food storage containers, drinking straws. And the best part is that they're also very reasonably priced. So what are you waiting for? Check out all these great plastic-free products and help save the planet. Just click on the link in the show notes to find out more and to start your journey to being plastic-free. Well, good morning, friends, and welcome to the Nature Wanderer podcast. I am the Nature Wanderer, Paul. I'm your host, and today I am out and about wandering through a cemetery. And you may wonder, why am I wandering through a cemetery? Well, because cemeteries are a great place to find nature. And I'll get into a little more of that in detail in a minute, but I wanted to let you know a little bit about where I am. Oh, there goes a groundhog running down the sidewalk, the pathway. But I'm actually at Forest Lawn Cemetery in the city of Buffalo. And it's a very large cemetery. A lot of famous people have been buried here. Some of the famous people are more local people, like Clienhan. Clienhan's Music Hall is a very famous music hall in Buffalo, and the founder of it is Mr. Clienhan, and he's buried here. William Pryor Letchworth. In a past episode, I was at Letchworth State Park and talked a little bit about the history of the park and who founded it. William Pryor Letchworth. He is also buried here, which is kind of weird because his grave is not near the Letchworth Mausoleum. So I don't know why he's buried in another section than the rest of his family. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know the story behind that. But so there's also some famous local Native Americans that are buried here. Probably the most famous person that most people, no matter where you live, probably know is music legend Rick James. Okay, he is also buried here. He lived in a little town called East Aurora, which is not too far from where I am right now. But yeah, Rick James is buried here. So you do get a lot of people visiting here to see some of the famous people. They have tours here where you can go around and visit some of the grave sites of these famous people. Some of the tours are showing you the different parts of the cemetery. So it is a rather large cemetery. There's some large lakes in here. I don't know if you hear it in the background. I'm hearing a hawk calling. I'm not sure if it's a young redtail. It sounds like a red-shouldered hawk. I'm walking close to the stream here, and I'm kind of looking. Yeah, there's Cazenovia Creek runs right through the park. There's a small waterfall here. Cazenovia Creek is kind of interesting because it goes underneath the city. Many years ago, the residents of the city considered it an eyesore. So Cazenovia Creek was just an eyesore to people, and it was causing some flooding now and then. They decided, we need to do something about it. They finally, convinced the city to bury it. So they didn't fill it in. They basically built a tunnel over at the top of this river. So for several miles through the city of Buffalo, the Cazenovia Creek is underground, is buried. And it emerges here in Forest Lawn Cemetery. And then it goes and meanders through the cemetery here. So it's a very beautiful area. There's a local nonprofit called Waterkeepers, I always have to try to remember their names. They used to be known as river keepers, and I used to work with them every once in a while. But water keepers, they changed their name to water keepers because they're doing more than just the river. They are kind of making sure everything water-wise in Western New York is kept healthy, clean. They came into the cemetery here and they created some sections of natural habitat, natural wetlands, which is wonderful because you can study that here too. So all of this is in the cemetery. Now, cemeteries are different, of course. I mean, I'm in a rather large cemetery right now, very big cemetery. This is, in the middle of a city, so you get a lot of people from the city coming here to walk. I've seen joggers in here. It's a birding hotspot, so a lot of birders will come here and watch for the birds, look at the birds. Of course, big population, people die, so you do get a lot of internments here, so it is busy sometimes with internments, burials, if you don't know what internment means. So it can get quite busy here. It's 8:30 in the morning right now, and I'm the only one here right now. I'm here, and there's geese watching me from across the creek. I'm right along Cazenovia Creek here. I'm at one of the wetland restoration areas, and the geese are watching me from the other end. Like I said, I heard the hawk call, and I've been hearing several other songbirds in the area, and that's why I'm here. I wanted to stress to everyone, you want to get it to a nice quiet place, go to a cemetery. There's so much nature in cemeteries. It's undisturbed. Other than, like I said, you've got internments going on. The big, more popular city-based cemeteries are going to have a lot of other things going on because there's famous people buried here. You get tours going through. I'm actually leading hikes here at this cemetery throughout the summer, nature hikes. There's, just so much going on here. But if you go to a very rural cemetery, it's going to be smaller, and you're not going to get, as many people there visiting their loved ones on a daily basis. So you don't get a lot of people coming through. You don't get as many internments. You don't get the tours, obviously. So it's going to be quieter. Yeah, cemeteries are quiet, undisturbed. They are very good places to see nature, to find nature. So this is why I'm here trying to encourage you, hey, visit a cemetery. Now, remember, it is a holy space. It is a place where people have been buried. Respect it. It's a place not to be, trampled on. Stay on the trails. Don't be walking across graves. But they always have places to sit, so you can sit and just relax and listen to nature, watch nature go by, discover the different trees. Unfortunately, a lot of cemeteries are groomed, I'll put it that way. They're constantly mowing them, weed eating, trimming around everything. So you may get disturbed once in a while by that going on, but you also lose some of the diversity because of that. But you also have a lot of people. There goes the hawk right now. He's just flew across. It's a young red-tail. So yeah, we've got a young red-tailed hawk right here. He's actually sitting up in a tree watching me. I'm wondering if the parents are around. He's calling to him. I don't want to get too close because the parents will probably attack me. They'll get upset that he's here, or I'm here. So I'll get a little bit closer so you can hear him. So you've got all this nature around you. He is not flying away. I am about 20 feet from him or her. And he's doing the head bobs like, what's this crazy human doing here? taking a picture of me. That's all I'm doing. But yeah, he's actually poking his head around the leaves to try to keep an eye on me. And you hopefully will. I will post these pictures. Yeah, it's a young one. He's watching me. He's very curious about me. His tail is still brown in color. Red tails don't get their red tail until they're about 2 years old. This is just amazing. I'm just hoping Mom is not here, because she's going to come flying down if I get too close. And I'm probably about 20 feet from the tree where he is sitting. And he's only about 10 feet over my head. Okay, I'll make sure I post these videos on the social media pages so you can see it. He seems awfully calm to see me around. They do get, the wildlife in a large cemetery like this do get used to people, unfortunately. So now I totally forgot what I was talking about, but I think it was about the trees. A lot of the trees in the cemeteries, unfortunately, are planted. People like their bushes. Oh, my husband always loved this type of tree. I want to plant that type of tree next to his grave. So they, get the cemetery's permission. They plant the bush, they plant the trees. You get flowers planted that are non-native. And all of this, spreads. And so unfortunately, you don't get a lot of natural diversity in some cemeteries. Other cemeteries are very strict. They only allow you to plant native trees, native bushes. But that's not the rule with most cemeteries. So unfortunately, you do get a lot of non-natives. So that's where I am today, and that's what I'm talking about. There's a bunch of ivy growing up this tree. I'm trying to see what type it is. And it looks like just a Boston ivy. Yep, so Boston ivy, which is non-native, so that was introduced and it just was brought in here. Okay, as I'm walking along, I'm seeing some native trees here. They actually have a section in the forest called the Last Forest of Forest Lawn, where they're old growth trees. They've been here a while. Oh, the red-tailed hawk, I'm looking back, is actually on something on the ground, so he caught something. Yeah, he's trying to carry it away. I think it's a little bit too big, or he's just trying to kill it. Maybe it's still alive. Not sure what he got, but he's on the ground right now with it. Yeah, he's doing the hopping, so he's got it in his feet, and he's still a youngster, so he's still learning. I'm sure Mom's around here somewhere. So I'm looking at some of the native trees that are here, and we do have a box elder here. Some people call it an ash-leafed maple because the leaves are more ash-shaped, but it does have the maple seeds on it, the little helicopters. There's also a Scotch pine. You can tell it by the long, very long needles. 2 needles in each package, each bunch. And it's got kind of a reddish orange hue to the bark, which is kind of like butterscotch is how I always remember. It looks like butterscotch pudding, that same color. And so it's a Scotch pine. Also seeing a spruce tree, and it looks like it's got the spruce trees. They have all the really low hanging branches to it. They also have the branches that kind of go in an arch up. So that is the spruce tree. And it looks to me like a blue spruce. Now there is a young tree here that they have the plastic around the bottom, the plastic tubing, to protect it from the deer. There are a lot of deer in here. And let's see if they planted. Yes, they did plant something native, which is good. So it's a young tree. It was probably planted here. And this is a white oak that they planted. So it's nice to see some natives in here. We also have a red maple. So red maple is also native to the area. So I'm really thrilled that there's this many native species right here in the cemetery. And as I'm actually crossing the bridge right now, you may hear the water on the other side of the bridge. I'm going to cross the road here, and on the other side of the bridge is a waterfall here. And it's just like a cascade waterfall. It's not, a large waterfall coming down. It's more of a cascade waterfall. And it's the only waterfall in the cemetery here. Cazenovia Creek doesn't have a lot of waterfalls. And on the other side here we have another red maple. There's all along this bridge here, there's a lot of red maples. There's also some vines that are climbing up the tree here. We have some vines here which are common ivy. They really clinging to this tree. A lot of the ivies like this are not really that native to the area. But yeah, so this is common ivy, another tree, another red maple that I'm passing that has a lot of the ivy on it. So, you want to study trees, come to a cemetery, you're going to get both native and non-native trees. There's a tree, looks like it's not doing so well. There's a conifer, looks like a spruce, but most of the needles are actually brown on it. There's a beech tree right here. Oh, we have a horse chestnut tree here, another white oak tree. Yep, now we got a red oak. Oh, it even has some little nuts on it. So the acorns starting up top. The way you can tell the difference between a white oak and a red oak, if you know what an oak leaf looks like, the red oak actually has pointed ends, tips to the leaves. Whereas a white oak, this is a great comparison because I got them right across from each other. So I've got a white oak on one side of the road. You hear the goose flying by, Canadian goose. So there's white oak on one side of the road and a red oak on the other side. But the white oak has rounded tips to the leaves. The goose just landed in the water. And I've got a train of geese in front of me crossing the road, I just noticed. There's like 15 geese. We've got all the youngsters right now too. So the white oak is rounded tips to the leaves. The red oak has pointed tips. And if you always have trouble trying to remember which is which, points, sharp objects, they poke you, they cause you to bleed. What color is blood? It's red. Okay, so you've got red oak gets points. Okay, blood. So that's the way I remember. You can come up with your own method. And sticking out of the ground here, they haven't mowed this section. I hope they aren't going to mow today. I always love it when the grass is growing like this, but we've got a lot of really tall shoots coming up, and right along the edge of the road here, we've got these really tall stalks, and there's a seed pod at the top with a little weird looking white flower to it, and at the bottom are these really long narrow leaves. This is longleaf plantain. There's usually common plantain in the grasses here. Plantain is a really interesting plant. It's introduced many years ago. I consider it a native now because it's been here for so long. It was introduced by the Europeans. When the Europeans came to this country, they, basically had the seeds on them accidentally, and they got planted here and just took off. The name plantago, plantain, plantago means the sole of the foot because the leaf is shaped like the sole of a foot. The Native Americans used to call it white man's foot because wherever the white man walks, this plant would show up. But the leaves actually have natural antiseptic properties to them, so you can crumple up the leaf and rub it on an insect bite or some poison ivy, and it will soothe it, will calm the itch. I'm seeing on the ground here, we got all the little helicopter seeds, which means if I look up, we have a maple tree here. And it actually looks like a sugar maple. So we have a sugar maple. Tap this tree for some maple syrup. So we're getting a lot of variety of native trees here. And if I go up, we're gonna walk carefully amongst the tombstones. I do hear a motorized vehicle, so I'm thinking that they may be mowing. I hope not. I'm just seeing a different tree here, so I want to go up just to take a look. And let's see, is it a white pine? It looks like a white pine. I'm going to try to find a branch on the ground that maybe fell. Oh, there we go. Okay, found some on the ground. Yep, this is a white pine, 5 needles. And just that we don't have to trample everything here, I'm going to head on out. So we've got white pine, we've got red maples, we got so many different types of trees. I don't want to just get stuck on trees. Also on the ground, I'm seeing some tiny little purple flowers. I'm so glad they did not mow this section, because I'm seeing a lot of diversity here. These tiny little purple flowers are what we call heel-all. It got its name from the early settlers used to use it for everything. They would heal. They felt that this plant would heal anything. You make a tincture of it, you make a tea out of it, it's going to heal, okay, whatever ails you. So whatever ails you, it will heal, and that's where it got the name Heal-All. Now as I'm walking along here, I'm headed towards the area where they call the last forest in Forest Lawn, because it's one of the original areas where it's on a hillside, and so they didn't cut down the trees there, and so they got to grow very large. But there's woods throughout this entire cemetery, but that's where there's a lot of forest. And as I'm walking up there, I'm seeing this white flash jiggling back and forth. There's a white-tailed deer over there. I've got about 15 geese to my left here, and there's a white-tailed deer standing up on the hillside having his breakfast, his or her breakfast. And I'm gonna just head in that direction because that's where I was headed anyhow. Along the way, I'm seeing some yellow flowers in the lawn here, and it's bird's foot trefoil. Gets its name. Yeah, you may hear the lawnmower in the background. There's a lawnmower. Hopefully they stay over in that area. It got its name because the seeds looks like a bird's foot. It comes out on three seed pods in one direction and one in the other. So it looks like a bird's foot, and that's where it got the name bird's foot trefoil. It gets a tiny yellow flower on it. We also have some buttercup here. And as I'm walking over to the trees over here, hi, sweetie. Yeah, she's looking right at me now, the deer. Yeah, as I'm walking, the trees along the edge of the creek here have all these vines running up it. And as I'm looking at these vines, they are Virginia creeper. So a lot of people see it and they think, oh no, it's poison ivy. No, it has 5 leaves. Poison ivy has 3 leaves. So this is Virginia creeper. And the deer get used to people, especially being in the city here. And do not approach deer. Do not approach deer, okay? This guy is watching me. He's making sure I'm not a threat. I'm not a danger. About 30 feet from this deer. Her, okay, it is a female. And I'm just gonna pass right by her. The section that I am in right now, the Last Forest and Forest Lawn, this is part of their green burial initiative in this section. They have where you can actually be cremated and put in an urn and basically just placed in the ground in this section. They have markers along the hillside here where that happens, and you can basically have your remains put here, and you get a little tag put next to your remains. So this is their way of doing some green burials here. I won't get into it because there's too much detail. The way we do our burials today, the way we deal with death today was embalming, cremation even, it uses a lot of energy. It's a lot of environmental degradation involved. So there's a lot going on with burials in our country that, harms the environment. It's really sad too, because there are green alternatives, which is the way they used to do it. Yeah, the way they used to bury people was very green. It was very environmentally friendly. Someone dies, you put them in a wooden casket, not a lot of metal and steel, and then you put them in the ground. Let nature take its course. Now we go into concrete. We, put chemicals to preserve the body. They seal the concrete vaults so that water doesn't get in there. It's like, well, how are you supposed to decay? Okay, I'll get off my soapbox here. That's for another day. So yes, green burials are possible, and this is one of their ways of doing it. And there's a robin getting his morning breakfast. And going up along the ground. I don't know if you can hear in the background all the robins singing. So as I was saying, cemeteries, great place to explore nature. There's a lot of, other than the intensive grooming, if you get into a big cemetery, you do get some more people. It's still a very undisturbed, quiet place. And nature knows that. So nature goes there, It's undisturbed. No development other than tombstones now and then. So get out and explore your local cemetery if you want to get out in nature. It's a good place to find new things, to discover new things. So I hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode. Don't forget to share it with others. Let other people know about the Nature Wanderer podcast. Don't forget to rate and review. Give me 5 stars if you feel that way. Of course you do. But anyhow, don't forget to rate and review. You can find me on Instagram at the Nature Wanderer, underscores in between each word. On Facebook, the Nature Wanderer. You can also find me on my website at naturewanderer.org. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can join my Patreon and become a patron, or you can go to my Ko-Fi page and make a small donation, or if you want to, you can do a subscription donation. Donate. It helps to offset the cost of producing the show and to pay for the website. That's what these donations are going towards. You can also support me by purchasing some really cool merch. I've got t-shirts, I've got sweatshirts with the Nature Wanderer emblem on them, logo. So go to my store. The link to the store and link to everything else is also in the show notes. You can also get there from my website, again, naturewanderer.org. And above all, have a great day and keep exploring the nature around you.
Hello, nature lovers. Do you love to read books like I do? I've always enjoyed reading books ever since I was a kid, especially books about nature. Unfortunately, as I get older, I find myself with less and less time to sit down with a good book. I've solved that problem with Audible. Audible allows you to listen to your favorite titles while you are driving, at the gym, taking a walk, wherever you are. With all the latest titles, you'll have quite a selection to choose from. And they have podcasts too. Start listening today with a free 30-day trial. To get your free 30-day trial, go to the show notes and click on the link. Happy listening.